First of all, I'd like to introduce Dr. Neil Cohen, who's with us today. Neil, I've known for a few years now, and we've become very, very good friends. And I have to say, and this is me talking from my heart, is that Neil is one of the most stand-up guys that I know. Very strong character and a really good character person, and just a good guy. So one of my very close friends. So I'm very honored and excited to be able to ask you a few questions today and just talk about chiropractic, which is one of my favorite subjects, and I know it's one of yours too. And let's dive into this whole business of coaching and consulting that you're now in, and because really it's truly your way to advance the profession. Am I correct in saying that?
You're 100% correct. And it's so funny how the Lord works in your life. I never realized how much impact and how much you can stay true to the message of chiropractic uh, by coaching. Honestly, there's so many people out there that are looking to find success in one way or another in chiropractic. And frankly, there are subluxations that they have. They have interferences to their ability to get where they want to go. And it's like anything else, we don't see our own blind spots very well. But when you can point out other people's blind spots and they're open to removing their opinion so they can learn, then you have this opportunity to pour into them. And it's very similar to what you do with your chiropractic patient members. You educate them, you help them understand what it is that they don't know and how they can learn from your mistakes, frankly, the trials and errors that you went through. What do you want to save them from? And chiropractic really, I talk about that question all the time. It's you come into the chiropractor for whatever you come in for, but it's not really that. It's what are we saving you from getting? And we really don't never know the answer to that, but we do know that one who lives an unsubluxated life, one who lives clear and at full potential, is far better than one who does not. And it's the same thing with coaching clients. If you could remove those interferences and get them to their full potential, and they find out who they are and the gifts that God has given them, it's very rewarding.
That's awesome. So, if you can tell me a little bit about your history, when you graduated from school, you had a great practice and were very active in practice, and then got out of practice. You spent some time working alongside Dr. Cordero at Sherman
Yes.
College. Tell us a little bit about the history and how you got into coaching after that.
Okay. So just to make it more of a Cliff Notes type story, I have to talk about my wife for just an instant because she's the one that birthed chiropractic within our family. She got me to go to the chiropractor. I had an incredible experience and I realized, oh my gosh, this is my life purpose. This is my life direction. And I had knew nothing about chiropractic, did not know a thing. And I went on to Life College. Now it's called Life University, but when I went there, Dr. Sid Williams ran Life College. I graduated in 1986, and I truly was anchored in this thing that they called the principle of living in this way where you could be this person who could express life at a high level. I just resonated with that, and I learned as much as I could about it. I became as good an adjuster as I possibly could. I always liked people and relationships, so it just was the perfect fit for me. And after practicing for over 28 years, Dr. Cordero, who had recently became the president, he had become the president of Sherman College back in 2013. He contacted me at some point in 2013 and says, "Hey, I need some help. I need somebody who not only has my back, but that can help me grow this college. And, you're the man." And I honestly, I didn't even think about it. I said yes. It was kind of a weird thing. It was like one of those things in your life where you just do the right thing and you're not even sure why. But I said yes, and we then began this journey, this incredible journey, where I came up to the school within about 10 months of that, and we started to grow the college with the help of the Lord. We really put Him first in everything that we did. We understood that we are just the vessels that love this profession so much. And Sherman became a very well-known college from that point forward. It grew not only in size from a student population and cohorts, but it also grew as a campus. And it was a wonderful almost 10 years that I was with Sherman College. But like every good story, there's a final chapter. And it ended in May, June of 2023. And quite frankly, it was a little difficult for me from the perspective of it was almost like a breakup, like a relationship. It wasn't there wasn't anything bad that happened, but it just couldn't go on the way it was any longer. And so I had this decision to make. And how would I reinvent myself? What would I do? And I started thinking about, well, do I go into practice? Do I work a part time? What do I do? And it's funny, people always would call me and ask me these questions, and I felt I was giving solid answers, and I started thinking about being a coach, and then I said, no, I don't want to be a coach. Why don't I want to be a coach? Well, there's enough coaches out there, and knowing who I am as an individual, knowing that I am fully committed to everything that I do, that I'm completely and thoroughly passionate about everything I do, I don't see myself as a cookie cutter coach. I don't have a program that I'm going to give to you and I'm going to tell you if you follow these 5, 10 things, they're going to work. I have me. And what I'm about is I'm about putting God at the center of my life. I'm about promoting chiropractic from a godly perspective. And I thought to myself, well, how is that going to work? So that was the idea that I had. And I said, oh, I guess I'm not going to do it. That's just not going to happen. And then God kept pushing me. It was really interesting. I was kicking and he was pushing, and I was kicking and he was pushing. And then I went to an event in July, and I'm at the event. And at that point, people didn't know what my status was because we didn't make a big deal out of it when the college days ended. And they said, hey, what are you doing? You're the vice president. And I said, well, no longer. This is what's happening. But what are you doing now? And I said, well, I'm thinking about coaching, but I want to coach from not only a chiropractic principle perspective, but a biblical perspective. And I got a resounding encouragement from those that I told. And I thought, oh my goodness, maybe this is a good idea. Maybe I should do it. Well, to make a long story short, at that event, I picked up 2 or 3 clients. So it was like they wanted to have more information. And so to this day, I'm still coaching those folks. So it was the beginning of something new for me. And I was able to develop a beautiful infrastructure that's based on 10 mindset success strategies. Leadership, obviously, is the main thing. We also teach people about financial health. We believe that financial health is as important as physical and spiritual health. I teach communication. I teach chiropractic philosophy. There's personal and professional development. I've had some good experience public speaking, so I share what I know about public speaking, teach people how to craft their own mission message so the people in their community know what they're about. So when somebody comes up to you and says, hey, what do you do? What's your life about? You're able to give them your mission in a very, very short, succinct, passionate way. So these are the things I've developed. So it's really a tailored program. So if I'm coaching you, I want to know about you, Dr. Cohen. I want to know what excites you. What are your core values? What do you want as outcomes for your practice? And then we work together to ensure that those things can take place. So that's what above down success coaching has become, and I'm actually loving it. I'm really glad that I paid attention and I listened to God.
Yeah, that is truly amazing. And one thing I can attest for you and what I know about you is that you are an incredibly good and effective communicator. And you're such a relational person. And that's one thing that impressed me right off the bat is that you were introduced to almost everyone in my family. And you knew next time we talked, you said, hey, how's Carter doing? How's Austin doing? How's Kim doing? And you remembered all these things. And I found that extremely impressive. So I give you tons of credit because that, I believe, is a good quality of a coach to be able to have that relational skill and be able to communicate in that way. So if I can ask you, how would you approach a new client? So let's say somebody came to you and said, "Hey, Dr. Neil, I'm thinking about getting some coaching." How would you approach a new client initially to discover what their goals were? And what processes do you have in place to try to figure out a plan specifically for that client?
So that's a great question. And the way that I field that, the way that I work is that I determine if, number one, if we are going to be a good fit for one another. Because I think that that's really important. I think when you choose a chiropractor, you have to be a good fit with your patient. Not every technique is for every person. Not every chiropractor is for every person. So I feel the same way about coaching clients as well. And so I sort of approach it with that attitude, the attitude of, I'm not desperate. I don't want you to be desperate. What we want to do is we want to build a relationship that has a foundation of trust. So I get to know the individual. And right there, I get a good understanding of who they are, what they believe, what they're trying to achieve. But if we're going to go further, what I do in my first discovery call with them is I explain to them the importance of understanding their own core values. Most people have never done the work to figure out what their core values are. So they spend their life trying to be like other people. And you can do that. There's people that have been successful in doing that. But unfortunately, if your reality is somebody else's reality, and even if you're successful at it, you're not that joyful about it. I
Right.
believe that you have to find out what really ignites you, what sparks you, what are the values within you that literally are going to make you fulfilled in your life purpose and your life direction. And I know this because I chased the wrong values for many, many years. And what I want to do is I want to save other people from what I went through. And listen, I had a great life chasing other values, but when I figured out my own, I went, oh my goodness, now this makes sense. And so we find out initially what their core values are. I have a brief evaluation form where they do a worksheet and they figure out what their core values are. The other thing I do is at what I call a coaching evaluation form. And the coaching evaluation form really asks, it's very brief, but what are your challenges personally? What are your challenges professionally? What would you like to see happen? So I really get an idea of what's important to them. Number one, I want to make sure that I can help them. That, is it up my alley? Is it something that I feel comfortable doing? But now I know where they're going. So we find out the core values, we find out the challenges, and then we build upon that. And I tell everyone it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. You're looking for quick answers. It's probably not going to happen. Let's work together and let's give it, let's start off with 3 months. See how you do for 3 months. It's like anything else. You need 90 days to heal a broken bone. You need 3 90-day trimesters to have a good baby. 90 days is a good number for chiropractors to understand how things work. And I know this, if I do the job that I know that I can do, and being committed, being passionate, it's a no-brainer. They're going to hang out. They're going to get what they need from me and then continue, because this is something that you can develop not only your chiropractic growth, but also your personal and spiritual growth as well. I've had marriages get better. I've had finances get better. I teach people the idea of knowing how to spend your money. Chiropractors, a lot of them, they're very successful and they don't have any money. I don't understand this. Well, I do understand it, but you have to be able to understand how to handle money. And so these are things we get into, but they're usually not the things they call you about. They want to know about, how do I get new patients? How do I retain my patients? Can you teach me about philosophy? And so I just spent some time with a client. We went from a mechanistic report of findings to a vitalistic report of findings. And we had a conversation this morning. And what I heard is that they've never been happier doing what they're doing, because that was their reality the whole time. So they were selling a product that wasn't really something that they were buying. And when we got them to sell the product they would buy, they're just blowing it up. It's awesome.
That's fun. That's where true fulfillment comes from, you know. So
Absolutely.
and obviously I would say you are a mentor of mine, and obviously you're a mentor to many younger chiropractors. Who in your past can you say had such a big influence on you to follow this vitalistic philosophy and practice in a vitalistic subluxation based model?
Well, I'd like to say that I still am acquiring mentors, because I think that what we understand about chiropractic is it's a bottomless well. I don't think you could ever arrive and say I've fully got it. But going back through my chiropractic career, the person that first influenced me was Dr. Sid Williams. Dr. Sid Williams, he was extremely charismatic in the sense that he was a lover of what chiropractic could do for humanity. And I understood that part about him. He wanted to bring it, literally bring it to the world. And he was able to do that. And I just watched him, I watched his passion. And so the seeds of chiropractic were planted by him. But like all mentors, they don't give you everything you need. You really need to surround yourself with more than one person in order to have fulfillment. And so when I got into practice, a young man came to me asking me for a job, and his name was David Yachter. And David Yachter wasn't even licensed when he came to me. He just got finished working for another chiropractor named Dr. Bobby Braille. And so he was in between trying to get his license, and he said, I want to work for you. And so David and I struck up a friendship. He was a young kid. I think he was 23 at the time, maybe 24. And he started bringing some ideas to me that he had learned from Dr. Braille and so on and so forth. And one of the things that he brought to me was a Reggie Gold cassette tape. And we would work out every day in the gym, and we would listen in the car wherever we went to this Reggie Gold cassette tape. And frankly, I had heard of Reggie Gold, but I never really listened to any of his lectures. I was at Life, Reggie was Sherman. If you know Sherman in Life back in those days, it was like Arabs and Jews. They really didn't have this relationship that drew any kind of cohesiveness. So I was introduced to Reggie by Dr. Yachter, and Reggie was the most logical chiropractic communicator I had ever heard. Sid was charismatic, but Reggie was logical. And he talked about the chemistry of life. And he spoke about this in such a way where I said, I'm going to incorporate this into my office. I'm going to do doctor's reports individually with families. If you came in and you didn't bring your wife, I'd say, go home, get your wife. I'm not doing it. You can't be a patient. I did exactly what Reggie did, and my practice took off. It blew up. It was crazy. So that was my second mentor. And then, of course, all the speakers that I would hear at DE. And I coached with Dr. Jim Sigafus for a little while. He was also very, very powerful with regard to communicating the message of chiropractic. I got to hear Fred Barge. I got to hear Bob Sotilli. I got to hear Tom Pastersky. You may not know who he is, but he was the first guy down in South Florida that was seeing 1,000 a week. And then the guy that I worked for, Dr. Mike Bartell, I worked for him for almost 7 years before I went out and branched out on my own. He was an amazing chiropractor. He's not. A lot of people know him, but he's not well known, if you know what I mean. He's not one of those guys where you say his name and they know who he is. But he was just a solid businessman and taught me a lot about systems and business and money. He knew about money, and I learned about money from him and how to save, how to do the thing. So anyway, there's many mentors that I've had. You got me going. I'm back in 1990 right about now.
Ah, well, you know, it's strangely enough is that we're not too far apart as far as our era goes because we spent a lot of time at DE and those are all names that I'm very, very familiar with and many have met personally. In fact, I know David and Dan Yochter well as they were part of our same coaching program for many years. So that's really awesome to hear. So here's a question for you. In the time that you have been coaching, and even through the time that you spent at Sherman, obviously you got a chance to meet and connect with and mentor a lot of students, and then watch them graduate and get into practice, and probably still maintain relationships with them now. Can you share one of your most memorable or notable success stories of perhaps whether it's a student or a chiropractor or a coaching client that you've had that you've made or you feel you've created such an impact with?
You know, there's no single person that was a student at Sherman College that I could say would be the one. There were so many lives that Dr. Cordero and I were able to touch. People used to come to us, our students used to come to us and ask for advice. I could remember a couple of students who are doing so well now. They're in practice, been in practice for years now at this point. They would ask, do I associate or do I open up my own practice? What do I do? And I would be very transparent with them. And this is what I believed for that was the best thing for students to do. Not everybody is cut out to open up their own practice right out of school. Even Sherman grads who really they have a leap ahead of many, but not everyone is really cut out to do that. And so what I would suggest that you go to work for someone for at least a year, perhaps two, that you really admire, that you really like. Maybe it's their technique, maybe it's their philosophy, maybe it's both. But go sit under their wing, make a little bit of money. You're not going to make a lot of money. You're going to make a little bit of money, but consider it another year or two of school. And you're going to save yourself perhaps 5 years of trial and error trying to figure out where success is for you in your life. Learn what they do, learn their systems, learn their procedures. And the ones that listen to me, they did fantastic. And I'm thinking about people that came to me and asked, because students, they get to chiropractic college, what's the first thing they want to do? In first quarter, they want to adjust, right? Okay, well, they're no different when they get to eighth or ninth or 10th quarter. The first thing they want to do is open up their own office. And they don't understand until you've worn those boots, you don't understand what it takes to be in business and what it takes to own your own office. Are there some that can do it? Absolutely. But I think that the advice that I gave to students, that was very, very sound advice. And those that listened did very well. One of the things that I'm thinking about, Dr. Cordero and I, we used to travel a lot. And I remember there was one time where we're in the gate of an airport, and we had just left an event, and this young man is wearing a Palmer shirt, Palmer School of Chiropractic, and Dr. Cordero and I went up and introduced ourselves. He was with his mom, and we told him about Sherman College. He's almost ready to graduate now. He came to our event and decided to go to Sherman College. That's the kind of thing that happens. It's like meeting somebody in the grocery store and they become your patient, and then you save their baby's life down the road. You know what I mean? It's like that. Chiropractic has logarithmic effects. So if you do the right thing, if you practice the principle and live principally, the Lord of hosts is going to open up the world for you, and people are going to be sent to you for you to be helped.
Fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. So let's just say there's a potential client or chiropractor or student, maybe even somebody who's inspiring to go to chiropractic school and wants some mentorship, and what you stand for really resonates that with them. How can they get in touch with you? How can they find you?
So I have a website. Obviously, it's abovedownsuccesscoaching.com. They can go on the website, find out more about me, more about the coaching that I offer. That would probably be a great way to do it. My personal cell phone number is on my website. I always gave out my cell phone number. It's funny when you give out your cell phone number, nobody calls you, but everybody wants it if they don't have it. So anybody could give me a call. We have an opportunity to set up a discovery call. I would just even be very happy to answer questions. Not everybody's ready to coach right at this moment, but my door is open. I learned, and this I learned this from Dr. Williams, Dr. Sid Williams, is that you serve for the sake of serving. You don't serve for to get. And it really brings me to leadership and the difference between transactional leadership and transformational leadership. We want to transform lives. Yes, chiropractic pays us very, very well. But if you're doing it for that reason, it's not as fulfilling. Change lives and you'll get paid. Don't get paid and then hope to change lives. And I feel the same way about potential clients. I'd love to meet people. I love to talk to them. What is it that you're looking for? Perhaps I'm not the right coach, but I could send them off to Dr. Cohen, and Dr. Cohen could help. Maybe they need systems, and I don't have sufficient systems that would suit them, but you do. So we can help each other. It's a big, beautiful world out there, and we can't help everybody, but let's help the ones that God sends us. So I don't turn anybody away for advice. That's for sure.
Well, Neil, this has been an absolute pleasure. I'm very grateful that you have obviously been on the podcast and had a chance to share with us. And I know that from your heart, you will make a lot of changes and a lot of positive effects in many people's lives, continuing on as you have already, but continuing on. So I'm grateful for that. I appreciate you, my good friend. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for the opportunity. It was great. I appreciate you. God bless you.